Let's go straight to my first guest in this hour now. He's Damian Green. He's a former Conservative Cabinet Minister, was Deputy Prime Minister under Theresa May, and joins us now. A very good afternoon to you, Damian.
Hi, Julia.
Hello. What do you make of this story? I mean, we've gone through the story repeatedly, people on the show. Albanian, arrived here at the age of 15, illegally, claimed he was from Yugoslavia, he wasn't. He ends up, bizarrely, being given indefinite leave to stay, even British citizenship. Why, we have to wonder. And then he gets to be found with 250 grand in cash, as you do, ill-gotten gains, gets sent to prison, and now they want to deport him. And basically a tribunal said, turns out among the reasons why it would be against his personal human rights is because he's got 3 kids here with another Albanian woman, and one of the kids is a bit fussy about food and a few issues, and it'd be too distressing for him. How on earth is that happening in this country?
It is extraordinary. I mean, I know that was only one of the reasons, but that a judge would entertain that as a reason, I find absurd. I share your disbelief, to put it no higher than that, that this goes on. And, I don't normally have kind things to say about the government, but to be fair to them, they have appealed this decision, and I hope that a higher court will reverse it.
But isn't the issue the courts? The issue is the lawyers and the judges and the tribunals, their interpretation, because that is not what was meant by human rights.
No, it's specifically interesting that we talk about this right to a family life, and it's always used in conjunction with the European Convention on Human Rights. But actually, if you have a right to a family life, the courts don't take that into account when they're sending people to prison for serious crimes in this country that they have nothing to do with European courts. So I don't understand why the immigration tribunals appears to have a different.
I don't understand why it's relevant. But again, you don't have a right. You don't have an inalienable right to a family life. And the formative of your right to a family life is that the government can't just willy-nilly separate you and your family. There used to be a good reason. No. Well, here's the reason: you're a lying, deceitful criminal. I mean, so that's the reason. But this is a problem. If we are not going to deal with the courts and the people making these decisions, then we're never going to resolve this.
Well, when you say deal with the courts, and the way you deal with the courts is to pass laws that are properly enforceable. And you make the point that this wretched man had got indefinite leave to remain after 5 years. And indeed, one of the suggestions Kemi Badenoch made this week was that we should extend that period. So you have to be here for 10 years. And that seems to me to be perfectly sensible.
But also there should be some more bare minimum requirements. I mean, are you a boon to the country economically, culturally? Are you fully integrated? I don't mind the odd parking ticket, but that's about it. Otherwise, are you a net contributor? I don't understand why we're offering British citizenship to some kid who arrived here illegally at the age of 15.
Yeah, well, and indeed, that's part of the proposals. And the other half, you're right, that the Conservative proposals are that if you've lived for a long period on benefits, if you're not making a contribution, then you can't become a British citizen. That this is a home, not a hotel, is the phrase being used, which I think is quite sensible. And we've got to be tougher on that. But there is, before that, another point about that it may be training of immigration judges, and it may be the way the Home Office puts the case. One of the things that certainly used to happen was that too many of these cases, there weren't Home Office lawyers there arguing the other side.
So if you're not represented, then okay.
Exactly, you tend to lose the case. And I remember it was one of the things we're going back 14, 15 years when I was immigration minister. But in those days, I had a big blitz on this because the Home Office were turning up at a pathetically small percentage of these cases. And we increased that. And you know what? The more often you argue your case in court, the more often you're successful.
Yeah, funny that I know. What about this rounding up we're hearing of foreign workers, illegal workers, the black market, record 600 arrested in 1 month, we're told, and 4,000 over 7 months. But in case it works out as 18 or 19 a day. A drop in the ocean compared to the number of illegal migrants arriving every single day in this country by boat, ignoring the many more who were arriving here legally or by hook or by crook, and then staying on past their visa, past their supposed holiday and the like. I mean, this is off the scale, this illegal working in this country. How did it get so out of hand? I mean, do you think that Labour will get to grips with it, given that your lot, the Tories, totally failed to? I mean, you worked as Deputy Prime Minister for Theresa May. She was supposed to be, hard as nails, Tory Prime Minister and Tory Home Secretary, but nothing seems to be done to actually deal with this issue.
Well, I mean, I think you need to look at the different bits of the 14 years of Conservative government. That actually the huge wave of immigration has happened post-Brexit, and indeed, Theresa was a very tough Home Secretary, and I was happy to work for her, doing tough things, closing down bogus colleges, putting X-ray machines so that people couldn't come across in the backs of lorries anymore. But there are always new ways that criminals will find to evade the law. And you're right, the majority of people who are here without the right to be here have overstayed a visa. And it's always seemed to me the answer to that is to make sure that employers get punished if they employ people who don't have the appropriate qualifications, in this case, the right to live and work.
I mean, this is so basic. I mean, again, there are punishments, but how often do people actually get punished? Clearly, people commit these crimes. It's like, look, it's like shoplifting, isn't it? Or why do people shoplift when there's this punishment of X or Y? Well, the odds are you're not going to be caught, you're not going to be arrested, you're not going to be charged, you're not actually going to be sent to, you're actually going to end up in court, you're not actually going to end up in prison. If you fine, you're not going to pay the fine anyway, no one's going to do anything about it. You get a free-for-all. I'm assuming that the reason why an awful lot of these people, of these businesses do hire these people is because no one ever does anything about it. And everyone knows, but everyone shrugs. I mean, if the police and the immigration authorities knew who to raid in the last month, I'm assuming that information didn't just come in 2 months ago. They would have known all along. That's dodgy, that place is dodgy, that takeaway is dodgy, that nail bar, that car wash. And they just walk by it and don't do anything. They could arrest them every single day.
Yeah, to some extent, it is a question of where the police choose to devote their resources and therefore what kind of guidance they're getting.
Yeah.
And you can always do more. And it is true that there are certain sectors where you are more likely to get people working illegally.
It's more cash in hand, so it's easier.
Yeah, all of that, and a fairly transient working population. That in sort of office blocks in big cities, where people are doing jobs for years and years, then those sorts of companies, big companies, will tend not to, not to want to bend the rules for obvious reasons. They have reputational damage that could happen to them. But so it is a question of, if you like, sheer grunt work, of actually the amount of resources, the amount of time and people you're prepared to put to this. And I should say, the government is making a big play over how they've deported more people in the past 6 months than that had happened in the previous 6 months. But nevertheless, the numbers are still less than they were 15 years ago. When I remember doing this sort of thing, where people did get regularly deported, and this wasn't such a big issue.
But we wouldn't have to. Here's the thing: we wouldn't have to deport people if we caught them first. If we didn't let either we didn't let them in, or okay, this bloke's been here on a 3-month tourist visa and he hasn't left the country because we have no record of this. We don't check. Right, where is he? Let's go and find him.
Well, given the amount of information you get when people leave the country now, the forms we all have to fill in to as it were take a plane out of the country. It's not beyond the wit of man in a digital era to know who's left the country and who hasn't left the country. And you may not know their last known address, but you can make a guess if they've come here. And it's not often on tourist visas. It's often on student visas and so on. So which areas they're operating in.
I mean, again, it's all about the will, if you ask me. Now, look, time's against us. I want to ask you about 2 other stories briefly, if we can. Lots of talk at the weekend about a possible mega right-wing party, right-wing Tories and the Reform Party amalgamating. Talk of Boris Johnson as the potential leader of that party, back in number 10 over my dead body. But it's been poo-pooed completely by Reform. Not a chance, says Reform. We wouldn't work with Boris Johnson, but also wouldn't work with the Tories. The Tories seem to be leaving it open. You're a Conservative.
No, they're not. No, they're not.
Think not?
No, they're not. Nigel Huddleston, who's the party chairman, has ruled it out.
Not going to happen.
Very specifically, and it's not going to.
We dealt with that quickly. With that case, on that basis, Reform and Tories both do well. Labour are going to be back in at the next election, no matter how badly they do, and they're doing badly.
They are, but I think it's madness to think to start predicting the next election on the basis of opinion polls.
Okay, fair enough.
Out from it.
Also, just finally, you know, you're an MP. Well, you're an MP who was senior level for years. WhatsApps have brought down Andrew Gwynn. He was in a WhatsApp group. Other Labour MPs and Labour councillors. Another Labour MP, 29-year-old, career probably over before he starts. Apparently tomorrow, Tory MPs are going to be the subject of some stories about what's in their WhatsApp groups. How worried should they be?
It depends what people have said, and I know very specifically the WhatsApp group that people are referring to. It's the Tory MPs 2019 to 2024, of which therefore I'm a member.
Yeah.
So I haven't heard anything from the newspaper involved. So I think I have obeyed my own instruction, which is never put anything on a WhatsApp group that you wouldn't be prepared to say, you know, on TalkTV or something like that, because if there are hundreds of people on a WhatsApp group, then can you trust all of them all of the time, or you know, they don't leave their phone lying around, or their staff get it. So I think it's a lesson to all politicians that if you want to say things in private, keep them private and don't write them down. Very good advice. We need to pass that to some more people. Damian Green, former Conservative Cabinet Minister, thank you very much for joining us.